Welcome back to the Hitting the Turnbuckle podcast. This is the Monday Night Raw review. Raw going off the air just a few short hours ago. Breaking news before Raw started, it was announced that Bronson Reed had unfortunately tested positive for COVID and therefore would not be a part of the triple threat match for the number one contendership or to go into the fatal four-way to get a number one contender opportunity for the Intercontinental title. His replacement would be announced on Raw itself, but obviously we wish Bronson Reed all the best in his recovery. Now, Monday Night Raw was the first stop after Bash at Berlin. The pay-per-view that happened at the weekend was actually really, really good. Exceeded, I say it was good, but not spectacular was the word that I use. Solid would have been a better, I suppose, a better word for Bash at Berlin. Now, Raw started off with the Terror Twins, Rhea Bloody Ripley and Damian Priest. And Rhea still wanted more of Liv and Dominic, and that's what they got. Although it was a bit sneaky, Dominic saying Liv wasn't here, but she actually was. They got into a bit of a brawl to start again, and Rhea this time hurt her leg, I believe, on this one. Got the left leg of Rhea Ripley caught in the bottom rope during the opening segment, which was not very good for Rhea. Looks like she was injured on her leg. Damian Priest does storm to the ring to make the save, but the damage was already been done. So seemingly at this moment in time, we are still looking at Rhea and Liv. Rhea did say that she would face Liv anywhere at any time. So that seemingly what we said on the Bash in Berlin review show that Rhea and Liv would continue on does seem to be the case, which is what we thought and what would be better going into Bad Blood if them doing that. Now, the other part of what was going on this week is Chad Gable and the American Maid. They had a six-person tag match against the Alpha Academy, and this was a prologue to set up what is going to be a match next week. Now, American Maid did get the win on this in this particular match. Ivy Nile was a part of it, as well as the Creed brothers, and they took on obviously Maxine Dupree, Otis, and Axel Tozawa. Now, the difference being on this one is it was quite a long match to start with the six person, quite a decent one as well. Maxine Dupree getting better and better and better. Ivy Nile, she's an absolute star, as is the Creed brothers. Now, Chad Gable does get on the microphone at the end of this and challenges all four members, four. What? Why? Anyway, all four of them to an eight-man tag team street fight next week on Raw. He wants to get rid of the Wyatt Sicks for America. That proceeds to Uncle Howdy proceeds to be on the screen, and he basically his path is in the void now after 375 brutal days. The silence is deafening. His life is no longer his, and the street fight is accepted for next week on Raw. I don't know if Chad Gable's got a death wish. I'm hoping that what that's going to do next week is they'll probably lose that street fight to the Wyatt Sicks, and then American Made can start going into a different direction, hopefully for championships, because all four of those individuals are champions. There's no doubt in my mind about that. And they should be positioned that way. Hopefully, after next week's street fight, as I said, they will indeed go into a different direction on Raw, and we will start to look at the Julius Creed and the Creed brothers as tag champions. Chad Gable and Ivy Nile could easily go into that slot into the women's division and be a great women's champion. She has everything, in my opinion, all the tools, so to speak, to be a women's champion. Now, if you remember at the start of the show, Rhea Ripley was taken out by Dom and Liv. Now, Damian Priest was in Adam Pearce's locker room, and Priest has already said he wants to take care of one of the Judgment Day tonight. Now, what's happened is he's gone into that locker room, and Finn Balor has stated to Adam Pearce that he would only fight him if it was a tag team match. Now, Priest doesn't think he has any friends, but Rhea Ripley says that she may have somebody in mind, Yeet, uh, which is the obvious choice, right? To be a tag team partner for Damian Priest. So we'll see who that is later, but I don't think it will take many guesses to see what the who that would actually be on Raw. One women's match on Raw this week: Selena Vega against Shayna Baszler. Now Shayna Baszler, part of Pure Fusion Collective. Selena Vega, NWO, LWO. Sorry, I wasn't too sure. This match was actually pretty decent, but again, Pure Fusion Collective seemingly was easy. It was an easy decision of who's going to win this. Really, when you were watching at home, I kind of knew that it was going to go that way. They did start ganging up on Selena Vega after the match. So Shayna Baszler did win with a running knee on this, and after the match, they started to gang up on her. And Lyra Valkyria to make the save, interestingly enough, made the save for Selena Vega. I'm not sure what the partnership there is. We'll have to see. But decent enough contest. Am I intrigued as to where it's going? I'm not really sure about this. I'm not sure where I stand on this. And this it seemingly at the minute it's Rhea and Liv, and then there's this golf. There's a tag team division, but other than that, I don't see a direction on the women's division on Raw at the minute, which is a shame. But yeah, it's quite a yeah, it's just no, and it's a very interesting situation on the women's division at the moment. I'm just not quite convinced. You look at the women's divisions elsewhere on other programs, and they're stacked, and they've got things going on left, right, and center. And it just feels as if it's not the women's championship, it's not taking precedence at the moment on the women's division, which is a bit sad. Anyway, to finish this bit off, Pure Fusion Collective does indeed get the better of both of them. And Sonya Deville then says there's not a man in the world that can take them home, nor is there a woman that can take them out. Shoot your shot. Interesting. Now, we did mention this past yesterday, sorry, when we was recording Bash at Berlin, that CM Punk was seemingly going for Gunther. That was his choice. He had put Drew in his rear view mirror. I made the point that saying either that will happen or something will happen on Raw that will basically set up CM Punk, Drew McIntyre at Bad Blood. Another point to me, that's exactly what happened. CM Punk was, taking the mic. He was talking about his match at Bash at Berlin. He was talking about how he was looking at Gunther because he was saying he better get used to cult of personality, and he was congratulating him on the victory and whatever. And he was now saying that his next target is Gunther. And then Drew McIntyre yanks CM Punk off the announce table and proceeds to kick the living shit out of CM Punk on Raw. He annihilates him. He starts choking Punk at the end. He hits repeatable claymores on Punk. It is literally bashing CM Punk to bits on Raw. And there we go. That is where it's going again. Punk and McIntyre likely in the Hell in the Cell. The last bit that Drew did to CM Punk as he was getting loaded on the stretcher, Drew McIntyre was continuing the assault. And before they could load Punk onto the ambulance, McIntyre breaks the bracelet in half and shoves the broken pieces of that bracelet into CM Punk's mouth. Well, he's going to have to wait until it comes out the other end before he can put the bracelet back together again. But nevertheless, Punk McIntyre 3, which is where we all thought it was going. And seemingly enough, it could be going into Hell in the Cell at Bad Blood. We will have to wait, though, for that to be confirmed. But that attack from McIntyre will definitely set something up between him and Punk. And I'm assuming it's going to be the Hell in the Cell match at Bad Blood, which I'll be very much looking forward to. The first Intercontinental Championship triple threat match was next. This pitted Dom Mysterio, Ilya Dragunov, and Dragon Lee, who has kind of jumped, fallen off a cliff recently on this one. It really was. He's just sort of disappeared, and now he's back again for this particular match. The Judgment Day was at ringside for this. Damian Priest did make himself known during this as well. Ended up Mysterio running away from Priest as well. But this was a really good triple threat match. There was a lot going on outside, which, sometimes with that, it kind of um, you stop watching the inside because you're too focused on the outside. And I don't particularly like that too much. I find that a little bit I find I'd rather watch the action in the ring than the stuff going on out the ring. And it was just more the other way on this one. But Ilya Dragunov gets the win with the Torpedo Moscow on Dragon Lee. They did shake hands after the match, those two, but Ilya Dragunov goes through to the Intercontinental Championship Fatal Four-Way match, which is going to be on the season premiere of Raw next week, alongside the eight-man street fight that we're going to have as well. So Raw next week, loading it up a little bit more than usual, season premiere. And it's a season premiere of SmackDown next week, which contains the return of Roman Reigns and potentially The Rock as well. We'll have to see. Now, we did mention right at the start of the program that Bronson Reed was out of the triple threat match with Sheamus and Kaiser later on, and that he would have to be replaced. And that replacement himself was Braun Strowman. Apparently, Braun Strowman is cleared from the doctors. He asked Adam Pearce, well, he said to Adam Pearce he was cleared and he would take his place, and Pearce obliged. So Braun Strowman replaces Bronson Reed in that match. Meat for meat. Sounds good to me. And that match will be happening later on Monday Night Raw. Now, they did have a number one contenders tag match between the Unholy Union and Damage Control. The winners would take on Bianca Belair and Jade Cargill next week. No real surprise on this one that the Unholy Union won it. I was a bit surprised that they had to win the match. I thought they would get a guaranteed rematch, to be honest with you. That's normally how it goes. So for them having to have a match to get a number one contendership match just feels a bit weird. But nevertheless, they did win the match with the Gory Bomb Flatliner combination. And next week on Raw, they will go and have their rematch with Bianca Belair and Jade Cargill for the tag championships. I do not expect the Unholy Union to win the titles back from them so quickly. My opinion on next week is Cargill and Belair will retain their titles. They've only had it a week, so it wouldn't feel right for Cargill or Belair to lose the tag titles so quickly. Of course, anything can happen, and we've seen stranger things, and it is the season premiere of Monday Night Raw next week. So who knows what could happen during the season premiere of Monday Night Raw. But my hazard a guess in saying Cargill and Belair will retain. Now, CM Punk's out of the question for Gunther. So who would be Gunther's next challenger for the World Heavyweight Championship? Well, that man himself is the last person, I think, that beat Gunther in the ring, and that would be Sami Zayn. Again, Sami staking his claim to be the number one or the next challenger for Gunther's championship. Now, I would say with this, and one of the things that I would is I think for this, it is just simply giving Sami Zayn something. We said this with Jey Uso. We don't expect he may win the Intercontinental Championship tournament thing, but he's not going to win the title. Same with Sami Zayn. I don't expect Sami Zayn to beat Gunther anyway. But what I believe is it's just kind of keeping them ticking along on Raw until we get to the bloodline stuff on SmackDown, until Roman comes calling and they all need to regroup as one again. So Sami Zayn and Gunther, we've seen it quite a few times. Do I really want to see that again? No. I'm kind of in a situation where Gunther feels a bit like Cody. It feels like there's no feud, that's gonna meaningful. You know, Cody's not really had a meaningful feud. He's had these matches. Gunther feels the same. And Sami Zayn is just really covering over old ground, which is, I don't really feel as if that's the right way to go about it. Gunther should be in the feud. The Punk would have made a lot of sense, but obviously it still does also make sense that Punk and McIntyre are still going at it at least until after Bad Blood. Is it just a way of getting something on Gunther something to do before a meaningful challenger comes along? Potentially. I just don't really want to see it. It's still too, we've only been what 5 months after WrestleMania, and they've had a lot of matches prior to WrestleMania. For so them to repeat it again, 5 months later is not something that I'm personally looking forward to. The match will be great, no doubt about it. I have no concerns about the match, but we know Gunther's going to retain the match for certain, and we know this is kind of a Jey Uso, kind of just Sami Zayn, just giving him something to do while we wait until Roman comes calling. So that's the thing. There was an interesting bit with backstage with Braun Breaker and Jey Uso. Braun Breaker was telling Jey Uso to basically keep running after Mummy, keep going after Dom's sloppy seconds. Um, but that does kind of because them two had the interaction this week. Jay was talking also about winning the the number one contender tournament match. And it does kind of because they've done that skit backstage between those two, you do kind of assume that it is going to be Jey Uso that wins the tournament and goes on to face Braun Breaker at Bad Blood. I know they kind of been setting that up, but I think for me that segment, that bit right there does kind of, for me, gives it away that that's what's going to happen this week. Not this week, but that's what's going to happen next week on Raw. Jay will win the match and go on to face Braun Breaker for the IC chamber. I don't like it when they do that. I would rather have Braun have interactions with everybody that's in the tournament, just so it leaves it open. So you're not sort of saying, well, is this interaction right here has basically all but confirmed that Jey Uso and Braun Breaker will be going one-on-one at some point for the Intercontinental Championship. But there we go. It is what it is. I don't make the rules. I don't write the stories, folks. I wish I did, but I didn't. We go to that, the aforementioned number one contenders tournament, the last triple threat match for the title for the to get through to the championship finals. Sheamus, Braun Strowman, Ludwig Kaiser. This was a bar. This was a wasn't very long. It wasn't as long as the first match of the night, and it did have some more interference. This time, Pete Dunne knocked Sheamus, getting rid of Sheamus on this one. But I felt as if it was really starting to get good, and the three of the people in here that can go. And I was hoping that, we were going to keep the backs, the outside stuff because we had it a lot during the first match. I was kind of hoping they would not do anything in the second match, but they did. Pete Dunne come out, kind of ruined it. It wasn't as long as the first match either, which it could have gone longer. Braun Strowman did hit the running power slam on Ludwig Kaiser after Pete Dunne had attacked Sheamus, pulled him out of the ring and attacked him with a shillelagh. So Braun got through. I suppose that could have been Bronson Reed had he been there. But yeah, so Braun goes through. He's next week on Raw in the Fatal Four-Way match to determine who is the number one contender for Jey Uso for Braun Breaker's Intercontinental Championship. We would assume that would be Mr. Jey Uso come at the end of Raw next week, but we will indeed have to wait. A bit of a side note before we continue. Now, if you remember, Odyssey Jones was part of the New Day. They were doing this little breakup, teasing a breakup for the New Day. Nothing happened this week, but Odyssey Jones was removed from the WWE roster list, and then Xavier Woods jokingly tweeted out, "Ain't nothing to do with me," but surprised me that, and they didn't continue anything this week with regards to New Day, with regards to Odyssey Jones and the breakup. So I don't know what's happened there. We need to wait and see. But is it once again the breakup of the New Day not happening because something with Odyssey Jones. Maybe next week will come clear. Maybe he'll be re-added to the roster. I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. But just a bit of a side note on that, because I was expecting more of a carry on from all of this week, but it didn't happen, surprisingly enough. Anyway, back to the Pete Dunne situation. Obviously, he attacked Sheamus, costing him the Intercontinental Championship match or tournament match. But his focus is on Trick Williams now on NXT. So he will be going back to NXT. He was at the pay-per-view at the weekend at No Mercy, got involved in the Joe Hendry match. Trick Williams was ref in that, and he seemingly sets his sights on Trick Williams, but he has just beat Sheamus up, so don't be surprised if that continues next week on Raw. Next week on Raw, anyway, it will be Jey Uso, Ilya Dragunov, Pete Dunne, and Braun Strowman in that number one contenders fatal four-way match. Winner goes on to face Braun Breaker. Bianca Belair and Jade Cargill will go put their titles on the line against the Unholy Union and the Wyatt Sicks and American Made in the eight-person mixed tag team street fight on Raw. Loaded up card for the season premiere on Raw. And the main event on Raw was Finn Balor, JD McDonough. Now, one of the questions I've got on this, actually, the tag team champions made zero defenses of their tag team gold. What is going on with the tag team? Why are they not defending the gold? What is happening? I get there's other stories with the Judgment Day right now. I understand that. But they've got tag team gold around their waist and they're simply not defending it at all. I am not a fan of that whatsoever. If you're a champion, not necessarily, if you're the world champion fair, you could defend it once a month or so. That's okay because that's the world title. But when you're other champions, and you could argue, I mean, Braun Breaker's had a few defenses, so you kind of let him off. These guys have had it a month or so now and have done nothing with the tag team titles. And yet they're in a tag team match, main event in Raw this week. Yeah, I'm just not a fan of championships. I mean, Roman Reigns, you got away with it because there was a story. I mean, Roman Reigns, there was a story behind the judgment, the bloodline. There was so much going on. You can understand it. There's no excuse for the tag team titles not being defended. I'm sorry, there just is not. Yes, there's stuff going on in the Judgment Day, but it's not as important. There's the tag titles. Anyway, they are in the main event against Damian Priest, and well, we did give you a clue earlier on. Damian Priest and main event Jey Uso, the Yeet Meister himself, in the main event. Really good tag match as well. If you remember at the start of the show, Liv and everyone did indeed injure Rhea Ripley. So right there was this match was great to be fair, but interestingly enough, after JD McDonough connected with a moonsault near the end of the match, very close to, Liv appears on the stage. She starts to attack Rhea Ripley with a crutch. Liv runs away. Jay tags in Priest. They hit the Razor's Edge. Priest tagged in Jay, hits the Uso splash. They picked up the victory, and Raw goes off the air with these guys dancing, yeeting, and whatever else. I can't remember what the Damian Priest one was, but yeah, the yeeting going on. So that was the end of this week's Raw. Next week is the season premiere award. It should be stacked. It's looking stacked. It should be good. Looking forward to next week's Raw. This week on the Hitting the Turnbuckle podcast, review shows coming at you left, right, and center. NWA, TNA, AEW, more WWE. Keep it locked on the channel at HTT Buckle on Twitter and on YouTube. Hitting the Turnbuckle podcast on Instagram. I'll be back with those review shows this week. Miss Fiona Lochran, of course, will be joining me for the NWA one. And until then, everybody, buckle down, stay safe, and goodbye.